For those of you that don't know, I have a sugar mama. And we had all these little sorority Susies around the table. If you guys know what a sorority Susie is. And so I'm pawning the little sorority Susies off.
Welcome to the Full of Chips podcast, the only chips you'll never lose, where the stakes are high, the takes are bold, and the conversations are always full of chips. With your hosts, Chris, the Dice Degen, and Craig from Old Bay Craps. You're tuned in to Full of Chips, the podcast where we dive into our own experiences into the world of gambling and share stories straight from the casino floor. Whether you're a recreational gambler, a seasoned pro, or just curious what the buzz is all about, you're in the right place. Each week, we break down the games, talk to the experts, and bring you tips that could tilt the odds in your favor. So grab your lucky charm, stack your chips, and let's roll into today's episode.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 15 of the Full of Chips podcast with your hosts, Mr. Dice Degen and Craig from Old Bay Craps. And there's somebody else on the screen. We'll get to him in a minute. Craig, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I like glancing over our guest in front of everybody. It keeps us pretty cool, you know. Before we get into the drinks, because we know we're going to get into the drinks, I do want to say it is Halloween week. Everybody recognize, but I have it for a dual reason. Because the other one is, just because I love movies doesn't mean we can't do sports betting with an under-over how many kills Jason does on an annual basis in all the sequels and reiterations of Friday the 13th. So sports betting, under-over, 6 or 7 kills, I think we're good. I'll take the bet.
There you go. Yeah, I being me, I looked up on ChatGPT how to host a podcast, and it said don't introduce your guest. It said introduce your guest. Anyway, our guest for episode 15 is the one, the only, Mr. Ian, Double Deuce. Ian, how we doing?
I'm doing great, fellas. I just want to know why it took 15 episodes to get invited.
Well, I mean, if it makes you feel better, I'm gonna justify for us because the legal department's gonna want me to have some kind of counterpoint here. You are the third guest, so 15 episodes, but we've only had 3 guests.
I would have had Mac before me too. I would have done the same thing.
Look, you're the third guest, but you were the 10th thought about. So you made an impression.
Yeah. In our talking points, I made sure to cut out all the guests that were listed above you. Just so we didn't. So Craig, I did that for us. I covered our bases there.
I appreciate that.
There you go. Anyway, all right. You guys will get to know Ian as we go through this episode. But first, as we judge everybody, judge ourselves on everything. What are we drinking tonight? Ian, our guest, what are we drinking tonight?
Ooh, we went top shelf, fellas. Let me tell you about this fine scotch right here that we're drinking. This is a 12-year Dalmore. For those of you that don't know, Dalmore is like an amazing scotch. If you haven't had a chance to have it, the 18-year is much better, but it's a lot more expensive. This right here is probably my favorite. I went to Scotland in 2018 to go to the British Open. Just happened to drive by a distillery that had this huge, elk head on the front of it. Went inside, and it was Dalmore. And I spent 2 hours with the lady. She taught me everything about Dalmore. So if you ever get a chance, people, 12-year Dalmore, very, very fine scotch. Toast to you.
Concur. Big fan of the Dalmore. I have one in the liquor cabinet that's in the other room, but if I would have known we were drinking scotch, I would have did that. I went on theme for this episode, though. I went on theme. We'll get to my theme in a minute. Craig, what are we drinking tonight?
Hold on. That's 18-year to Chris and I for Christmas. I just want to make sure I wrote that down. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate 100%.
That. Got to send something.
We are drinking in the OBC, another OBC mug. There was the OBC mug before we had the actual OBC mug made. And this has a nice blend of coffee with Kahlua. And we have hot.
There you go.
It's hot right now, but when it goes cold, I got ice on standby and water, of course.
There you go. You always need the H2O. Get the coffee flowing. We will have some mugs, by the way. Well, not mugs. Highball glasses. Very soon, made by a special friend. I will show those eventually. I don't have them yet, but they will be coming. But in place of that tonight, I have my no longer boyfriend, fiance cup here.
That's
And
great.
since I'm on theme, Halloween week, right? I had to make myself an apple cider old fashioned.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
So cheers, gents. Episode 15. Let's get it
Cheers,
going.
everybody.
let's get it going.
All right. Episode 15. Obviously, we had Ian. For those of you who don't know Ian, he can talk. And we love that about Ian. He can really talk. But he's one of the funniest people I know, honestly. He gets me cracking up all the time. The group chats that Ian's in, hilarious. And the funny part is Ian won't respond for 3 hours. And then all of a sudden, zing. And I'm like, got me. Anyway, we're going to talk a whole lot of stuff today. We're going to talk where Ian's from, right? We're going to talk about how he got into gambling, some of his philanthropic adventures that involve gambling, sports. We got to talk on sports, of course, because Mr. Double Deuce is a wizard on the sports stuff. And we're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great time. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 15. Special guest, Ian, welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks, fellas, for the invite. I appreciate it.
Of course. We had to have you on, and we know you're going to be a great guest already because we like to talk to you. You like to talk to us. At least we think that anyway. I don't know. I like to think some people like to talk to me, and then they tell me I hate talking to you, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. But I don't think that's the case. Ian.
Well-
But
Well, I want to be honest. Craig paid me when we were out in Vegas back in September. He slid me a hundo and said, "Hey, I really need you on the podcast. We need to up the views because
there you go.
I do. You know,
No
I,
rating.
I bring him in, and so I said, Craig, no, come on, man. We're friends. We'll do this. And it rhymes with hero for zero. Yep. So here we are. And I appreciate the invite. I couldn't ask for two better guys. I enjoy your guys' show. I love the TikToks are the best, man. I can watch those late at night. And my wife knows exactly Chris's voice. And then when Craig's voice comes on, she goes, she did this last night, Craig. I kid you not. We're laying in bed and I'm TikToking it. And you guys came up and she goes, "Who's that other guy?" And I said, "Oh, that's my brother from another mother." And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "That's the only guy that probably knows more about movies than I do." And she goes, "Okay, next time we're in Vegas, you got to make sure to do an intro into her because she just doesn't believe it." Because, I've watched Grease 93 times.
There you go.
I've seen Top Gun in about 71, 72 times. She thinks I'm crazy for rewatching movies. And I said, well, you got to meet Craig. He watches more of the same movies that I do, except I don't do boogeyman movies, my friend. Sorry, I don't. But
That's all right. I do. I specifically watch movies throughout the year over and over again, but I watch movies that are based in the season in the movie.
See,
So if it's has
Another
winter
level.
scenes, I'll probably watch it in the winter. It's that bad. It's
yeah,
that
that's
bad.
another level, though. I mean, I couldn't imagine that. Today, I was sitting downstairs folding laundry. It was my day to fold the laundry, and I turn it on, just Netflix trying to find something to watch. And next thing you know, you find some. I'm a huge DC guy. Batman is my guy, as you can see right here. We're rocking the Batman right there. So I ended up just scrolling through, started watching movies. Next thing you know, it's 2.5 hours out of work, and I'm watching some movie in the middle of the afternoon. I'm like, what are you doing? Get to work. You can't make any money sitting here doing nothing. So
the
So
real
Chris will
question is, how
appreciate
much
this.
laundry did you fold?
So here's the rule, Chris. You've met my son. So for those people out there that don't know, I have a 23-year-old autistic son that is low functioning. He doesn't talk a whole lot, but he does the meanest laundry ever. So he knows how to take it from the floor, put it into the washer, put 2 Tide Pods in, turn it on, wait till it get done, switch it over, and then when it's done drying, he comes out and flops it on the couch, right? He don't fold. He's like his mom. Neither one of them will fold clothes. So I went down with 75,000 hangers and hung, because I hang all my stuff, and hung it all up, and then asked him to help me carry it up the stairs. He's like, "No, I'm busy, Dad, playing
No.
video games." No, he just looked at me. No.
Sounds like a typical kid response to their parents, but
100%.
no, your son's awesome. I always
Yeah.
love chatting with him.
Yeah.
great conversations. I always love when it would come on like midstream and like third guest, here we go. Like, and not even blink, just like third guest, what's up, everybody? Like, no problem. So that's awesome though. But yeah, the laundry folding, man, that's one of those chores that I freaking hate, dude. I hate it. I really do. Like, but I'm so anal about how my clothes are folded that fiance DJen can't fold my clothes. She's close. My mom was never allowed to fold my clothes because she don't fold the way I like to be folded. So I'm so anal with how my clothes are folded. Same thing with the hangers. Like everything I have is hung. Um, yeah, I have a problem. I'm like
Are
a
you feng
female
shui? Do
sometimes,
you have to
man.
have it a certain folded way?
Yes, t-shirts are folded one way. Hoodies are folded a specific way. The t-shirts, if they're not folded properly, I will unfold them and refold them. But in between them getting unfolded and refolded, they have to get rewashed because if it was unfolded properly, if it was folded improperly, to me, it's not clean. So it needs to get rewashed and
Oh my
refolded.
God.
So do you have it so like Craig's logo comes up on the front of the t-shirt when you fold it so you know what shirt you're putting on?
Yep, exactly that. And no creases in any logos. If I have to crease a logo to fold something, it's hung up.
Oh, I love it. Because my wife folds it to where you can't see what's on the t-shirt. And so
No,
we
I need to know
fire
exactly what I'm wearing.
100%. 100%.
Yes.
I did learn how to fold a hoodie the way they do it in department stores, where they tuck it into the hood at
Oh,
the very
yeah.
end. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
That's how
Nice and
fiance
straight.
DJen folds her hoodies. I'm not allowed to fold her stuff either because she thinks I'm too anal. But you know, that's beside the point. Whatever. It is
So
what it
Ian,
is.
I
Plus,
imagine that the laundry you get out of your kid, it's like gambling. It's like you go full force up front, but you still come home with nothing.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, I mean, it's funny because he'll come with this huge arms full of clothes and he dumps it down there. He looks at me like, hey,
It's time.
you going to fold this? You better fold this before mom gets home. And I was like, for those of you that don't know, I have a sugar mama. I'm going to be honest with everybody out here in the internet world today. She brings home the bacon, fries it up in the pan and everything. I just do all the cooking, cleaning, but I take care of him and then run a small company on the back end as well. But let's be honest, I got a sugar mama, guys. I'm not going to hide.
So all you got to do is show the RESPECT.
That's it for sure, man.
yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
I'm learning that one.
Yeah.
That one's hard for me to say
Oh,
though.
you just begun
hard.
learning it, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, 26 years later, after 26 years of marriage, you figure I wouldn't have to do that anymore. But she literally sent me a text just saying, hey, I'm so tired. I've had a rough day today. So I made sure she likes really spicy spaghetti. So like today I've been slow cooking spaghetti for her, just nice and slow and lots of garlic for her, you know. And so people think what are you doing? And I was like, well, hey, you got to take care of the ones that take care of you. You know what I mean?
It's interesting you mentioned that the way she called and said I had a bad day ahead of time. Have you heard about like the 1 through 10? So
No.
like you contact or text and your spouse will say, "Look, I'm at a 2 right now." And you're like, "Well, that's great cuz I'm at a 10. Come on home. I'll get it working. We're going to get your spirits up. And here we go."
Yeah, we don't have that. We just have, hey, I'm having a bad day or this is what happened. But, to be honest, not to get philosophy, somebody that's worried about what's going on, but my marriage is the best it's been in 26 years. Strictly because and don't take this wrong for some people that don't, but we made a commitment to make her career more important than my career. There was a time where it was all about my career. And after COVID, my wife got her MBA during COVID, teaching 2 kids at home how to do online schooling, one of them autistic, which was unbearable, and just made that commitment. And it was the best thing for the family because I'm so close to my son and he was getting ready to be done with school. Somebody has to stay home with him. And we made that commitment, but it was life changing. And for those that have met my wife at some of the Craps for the Cure stuff, she came one year and just really enjoyed it. But to have the ability to say, as a male, it was tough at first to swallow that pill. But man, she lets me have a country club membership, Chris. You know how that goes. Come on. What's that worth?
Oh,
Right?
I know. Yeah.
And she
See,
pays
that's
the bill.
sometimes
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here's the thing, right? And I know this is the Full of Chips podcast, but this is the relationship advice podcast now. So welcome. We're starting that up apparently. But it's fun. The significant other got to keep him happy because yeah, she lets me have a 12-foot craps table in the house and lets me go golfing and lets me do that stuff. So yeah, I'll suck up whatever to go, make her happy so I can go, do my stuff and not have to be like, sorry boys, can't hit the links today because I'm doing this. She's like, no, go have fun. I'm like, thanks.
Well, just remember, Chris, take Ian's advice. You're going to be happy in year 26 of your marriage.
That's it.
Well, shit, I got 15 more to go practically. So.
Yeah. Year 7 through 11, that could be some rocky times. I say.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to be on, I guess, A1 in 30 something. No, not even 30, 20 something days. But yeah, no, we'll have some good times. We'll have some fun. But yeah, ladies at home, keep your gents happy. Gents at home, keep your ladies happy. And together, you're happy.
100%, my friend. 100%. Couldn't agree more.
So let's
if anyone
get
has
this
any
started.
Yeah. Forget the relationship advice. I was gonna say if anyone has that relationship advice, put it in the comments. But this will be our most commented video because someone's gonna put, my wife doesn't let me do this or this or this or this, and I'd be like, dude, you need to sound like you need to call like a psychiatrist or a therapist or somebody, not the Full of Chips podcast. So
I
anyway,
thought we were giving
gambling.
the advice of go to the casino. Just go to the
Yeah, go to the casino, lose money, and don't tell her about that. She'll be real happy. Don't take dating advice from DJ. It's a bad idea. Anyway, gambling, right? Segue, clearly. So Ian, obviously we met you through gambling and stuff, but like, how'd you get into gambling? Kind of like, what's your background in terms of gambling? Were you always? We know you play craps, obviously, but have you always been craps player? And then as your follow-up question, you might have to write these down because I'm just firing them at you. How'd you come up with the double deuce handle?
Yeah, great question. So mine goes back to my great-grandfather. He was a poker room player. I come from a very humble background, and my grandfather thought he could make enough money playing in it was an old pool parlor. And he would play cards and lose a lot of money and then win a lot of money. And so that was my maternal great grandfather. And then my father met my maternal great grandfather in a pool hall and playing poker. My father was a big poker player as well. Loved sports, loved to gamble. My dad was a really good pool player, so he obviously met my great grandfather there, and then my mom had met my dad. So, but it's been in the family the entire time. Everybody in the family has been a gambler to some extent. We've all enjoy, whether it's at home playing 31 or, which is a 3-card game where you try to get an ace and 2 face cards and you get 31, where you're playing for a quarter apiece, to going to the casinos all the time. I remember the first time I went to the casino, I just graduated from college, got a brand new credit card with a $3,000 limit, thought it'd be smart to go to Vegas with a brand new, take my brothers to Vegas and do that. So I've always been somebody that's been intrigued with the thrill of gambling. Now, a lot of that comes from a very addictive personality. I used to be a drug and alcohol dependency counselor. I actually met my wife in prison as I was a drug and alcohol dependency counselor for kids that are locked up in the only co-ed maximum security place in the state of Washington. And so, my addictive personality wasn't in alcohol or drugs. It was gambling. But it goes all the way back to learning how to play cribbage with my dad. I was struggling in elementary school and doing times table. My father sat me down and said, look, if you want to learn times table, we have to learn to play cribbage. Well, we didn't play cribbage for free. We played for money. It's a nickel a point, 25 or 50 cents a game. And so that's how we learned to play. And my grandfather was an amazing cribbage player. I mean, he could tell you what you had in your hand. By the second card you lay down, he'd be able to tell you exactly what you had in your head. Sometimes after your first card, if he played with you so much. And so in my family, it's always been that way where we wanted to do that. And then about 30 years ago, all my friends here in the greater Seattle area decided we'd go to Vegas every year for the Super Bowl. And I haven't missed it. The only year I did miss it in Vegas was the year that they had it in Vegas. Was it 2 years ago? It was just too hard to get a room, and so we went to Phoenix and went and did the waste management and stuff like that. But uh, craps was never even in my line of sight up until about 5-6 years ago. I've been a Pai Gow player and an Ultimate Hold'em player my entire time. We would sit at a Pai Gow table and we would have 2 deep. That's back when they could let you bet, but if somebody was sitting down, you could bet the guy that you were standing behind. So, which was really cool at Mandalay Bay back in the day. And we just had a great time. And 30 years later, I'm the only guy out of the original 20 that still goes every year to the Super Bowl. I would go by myself, if I had to, but it's great. We go there, we golf for 2 days. We get there on a Thursday, leave on a Monday. We usually go watch the Super Bowl at a VIP hosted party, or maybe to a bar somewhere or something like that. But and then for me, it's my outlet now. I don't go to the bars anymore. I'm 57 years old. I don't have that desire to go to the bar. The bar for me now is downstairs. It's in my, my lower section of my house. I've got my own 12-foot table that I upgraded and upgraded and upgraded till I finally had a table that John from Pro Craps and I flew to Reno and drove it back in a U-Haul a couple years ago. It was funny because when we pulled back the nasty felt that it was on there, that, to be honest with you, it smelled like cat piss. And Justice Jen could tell you, she was there the first week I had it. She goes, "This is terrible, Ian. Get rid of this." I was like, "Yes, I am." So, but we peeled it back, and that table's from 1967. I was born in
Oh, wow.
68. There was newspaper underneath there that had Gene Upshaw and Steve Spurrier were playing like some football game, a national championship or something like that, or some big game, and it was all this stuff. And so it was really cool to see. I thought that was just the biggest fake thing that they use newspaper. But when I rolled that back and saw that newspaper, John's like, you got to keep that on there. My wife's like, you guys, it stunk so bad. My wife's like, "Get it out of my house or the table's leaving." So I'm blessed that I have my own table. I love it. I'm actually 15 minutes away from a really great casino here in the about 17 miles east of Seattle. It's called Snoqualmie Casino. We have the guy that runs all the table. His name's Ralph. I can call him at any time and get a private table if I have more than 10 people or more, which is great. I mean, that's
Plug.
That's one of the things I do once a quarter. We have a Facebook. It's called Craps, Indian Tribe Craps. There's a lot of tribal casinos in the state of Washington. I mean, there's obviously, you heard John when he was on with Casino Tears talk about all the different casinos that are in the greater Seattle area. But this one's by far my favorite because, one, it's close, and two, they have 4 really good tables. They range in price from $5 to $10. Most of the time they're $10, but they'll go up to 15 once in a while. But if I call Ralph ahead of time and say, "Look, we got 10 people," he'll give us the best choice of the tables. He'll reserve it for 4 hours for us and let us just play, which is awesome, right? To have that kind of pool. That's my way. It's my outlet, is playing craps now. Just by myself, I'll sit down and throw for hours at a time. It doesn't take me long to throw a book up of 720 and and be able to send it over to Coach Bo and say, "Hey, look at this. What am I doing wrong?" type routine. But it's just a different outlet, right? And the craps,
Yep.
I gravitated to it because of the community in craps, right? I'm a talker, like you guys said. I love to get involved. I love people to get excited. I'll leave a table that I'm at to go play somewhere else just because I feel the energy in that other table, right? And I'm a firm believer in energy will give us that positive response back. That's why I go see Coach Barker, is because he's totally into that and has, instilled that into me after 4 or 5 sessions with him. It's about, Ian, you have that positive vibe. Keep that positive vibe at the table, because some people will, "Oh, geez, you just threw a PSO and, get down on somebody. It's like, that's not the case. You think he meant to throw that? Stay positive, people. Your next question, how did I get double deuce? That's a great question. I think one of the things is when I first started throwing dice and thought this things of dice influence. I started watching how to play craps on YouTube. I started with Jeremy, and then I'm sure we'll talk about my relationship with John later on. But I started watching all these things. And while I started practicing, I bought a little box that you'll see a throwing station in some people, and made this little throwing station. That's how I started. And I just started rolling a lot of hard twos, or hard fours. And I said, man, well, my nickname outside of craps is Dumpy D. And so I thought double D, I could use my logo for a double D and get it into double deuce. Plus, I love, I was hitting 4s and 10s at the time, was just my sweet spot. And I thought, man, that's perfect. I had aspirations at first of like doing what you guys do as far as channels and stuff. Chris, I remember first time I watched your channel, I was like, look at this young buck, man. He knows more about craps, and he's old enough to be my son. And this guy, you get it, because you were speaking to a different
different age group, really.
Age group, right? And I appreciated that, because Jeremy's Colored Up was the first video I wrote, because it's the first thing that popped up when you did it, right? I looked at other people that I don't want to mention names, but a guy that makes his own table, his first name starts with Bone, and I thought, man, this kind of turned me off at first. I was like, man, I'm not having fun watching this guy. And that's when, everything changed. And now it's my game of choice. I have people come to my house. I teach them how to play, craps, just the basics, which is fun. The next time we have a meetup, we're going to have everybody come to my house, and we'll warm up here before we drive up to the casino and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Nice. It's interesting you said you've squashed the rumor that Double Deuce came from Roadhouse, which was the bar in Roadhouse, which is how I just maybe associated the name that you had with you, because I'm a movie guy. I'm like, oh, first thing came to my head was, oh, Roadhouse, of course. And couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, well, it's funny is that's exactly the same thing my wife said, because my wife hates that movie. And I watched that movie, the Patrick Swayze version, right? The new version with Conor McGregor in it, and what's his name, is a good movie as well.
Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah. So, but, that one, it's just, and she hates it. And so she had said the same thing, Craig, which
That's funny. My wife loves that movie.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Because she loves Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. How could you?
That's another movie I haven't seen.
Jesus Christ, Chris.
I'll add it to my list.
Write it down.
Write it down.
We have a running joke on this podcast that I just have a scroll that's getting longer and longer of movies I haven't seen that Craig tells me to watch. He hasn't led me astray yet, so I will add that one to my list of things that I need to watch.
I'm trying to keep. I even keep them like sports oriented or gambling oriented, just to keep Chris's interest.
Well, you have
Roadhouse
to keep my
is definitely
interest
outside of that, but because it's so cool, you have to watch.
Yeah,
I'll watch it. I know the new one has Jake Gyllenhaal, like Conor McGregor's in it, like a bunch of people are in it.
Yeah.
I just haven't sat down and watched it because I have you guys both know this because Ian, we've been enough in person and I've talked to you enough to know that I have the attention span of a fish. So like if something doesn't catch my interest when I am watching it, like you can't get me to watch it. Like a show, like a series on TV, if you don't pique my interest in the first episode, and I'll give you the first episode, I will not watch the second episode. And people be like, well, you have to get past episodes 4, 5, 6. I'm like, you think I'm going to sit here for 4 hours and painfully watch this? Hell no, I'd rather watch something different. Hell, I'd rather rewatch some movie I've watched 10 times.
What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
I just literally saw We Are Marshall a month ago. Good film.
Well, you're going to be on a flight for 5 hours here coming up pretty quick. So you should be loading up that iPad now with these quality that Craig's been giving you, right? Put them down, download.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Because whatever Craig and I are telling you to watch, it's not going to be on the free list that you get on the flight.
Oh, hell no. Listen, that might be the worst movie selection ever. You mentioned Top Gun earlier. I've watched Top Gun on the plane I don't know how many times because it's on every freaking plane. And I literally, every flight, I'm watching Top Gun at least once to the point where I can quote the original and then Maverick, like word for word, because I've watched them on flights. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, I hear you. They are the worst. Especially, I'm a big Alaskan Airlines guy, and it seems like they always put 4 new releases, and then it's the same list of movies. They never change those out. It's like,
Yeah, and like 90% of them are like rom-coms that you couldn't catch me dead watching. So I'm like, miss me with that, Craig. I know that's your favorite line that I said, but it's okay.
I love that.
Ian, you mentioned you touched on a lot of topics there that I want to dive into, but you mentioned John, right, from ProCraps. So how'd you meet John, and like how'd you kind of get to know him and things along those lines?
yeah, yeah. So when I was on the hunt to learn this game, I wanted to learn the game, and I wanted somebody that would had the ability to talk to me through YouTube, but not for me to feel like a dummy when somebody said, there's some times where somebody really gets deep and I'm lost, right? To this
Yep.
day, I'm still lost, right? John, being the teacher that he is, I really gravitated to that. So for those of you who can remember, when John first started, he just had that blank table he didn't have a table, right? He just had this throwing station. And above his throwing station, he had a Seattle Seahawks logo. So for those of you that go back and watch John's old stuff on his ProCraps channel, he had a logo on there. Well, instantly I saw that and I said, hey, man, as a season ticket holder for 20 plus years with the Seahawks, I sent him a thing and said, hey, are you a Seahawk fan? Are you in the Seattle area? And then he pinged me back. And so him and I just started talking. He was literally 4 miles away from my house. I mean, what
Wow.
are the chances of that, right? And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, so then him and I just back and forth, trying to set up a time to go up to Tulalip, which is just north of where he lived, right? Chris, you've been to the Lip. And
Oh yeah, I've been to the Lip.
you
Hated that place,
no
but I've
kidding.
been there.
Exactly. So my wife and I were going up to do a date night, have dinner, and then my wife also loves to gamble. Again, we started with Pie Gal with her, and now she's into craps now as well. And John came up, and I didn't know what to expect. I said, "Hey, why don't we meet at Tulalip and let's play a little bit?" Of course, he's late, like always, John, late getting there. Well, that was
That sounds about right.
yeah, and we were playing on the tougher of the 3 tables at that time, and it was packed. And we had all these little sorority Susies around the table. If you guys know what a sorority Susie is. And so I'm pawning the little sorority Susies off on John, saying, "Hey, he's the coach. He'll tell you how to make bets and stuff like that." Which John, when John's playing, he doesn't want to coach. He's just like everybody. He wants to get in the zone, right? But I wouldn't let
Yep.
him talk to him while he was throwing, right? But him and I sat there. We just talked, and I won $1,100 just betting the 4 and 10 basically, and we were just killing the 4s and 10. And it's funny because he had won. I think he won like 600, and he's like, "I'm done." And I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude? Done? We've only been here a couple hours. I'm in it for the long haul." So when I go to gamble, I don't have a stop loss. I love this talk about stop loss. And Craig can attest to this. Is I bring a amount of money to the table, and I'm either going to win or I'm going to piss it all away, and I break it up into envelopes. That was the best thing I've learned from listening to people in craps, right? And Coach Parker has really instilled that in me. Ian, if you don't want a stop loss, then just have what's in there. And Chris, you've said this, and I really heard it from you as well, is don't bring your debit card to the casino. Don't do it.
Yep.
I bring not a large bankroll with me, but I bring a fairly good sized bankroll. I'm not like Jen bankroll, but I have a pretty good sized bankroll when I go to Vegas. And I use the safe in my room, and I, partition it out effectively. And that's how I gravitated to John, is that not only was he close, somebody that we could do, things with, but he's somebody I could bounce ideas off, and he was the first person I ever had their number that I could text. Like, I remember one night I was at Tulalip and I was texting him, "Hey, what was that? Give me that breakdown on how you did whatever," and he'd text me back immediately, say, "Do this, this, and this." And I was like, okay, perfect. Because the problem I think I have is you get so much content coming in from YouTube on different styles that I get a phobia of, what am I supposed to play? When do I play? When do I go light? When do I go dark? ride the horseman enough to stay afloat? Or how do I play the skill 66? Or how do I, I'm sorry, I don't know Jacob's actual word, but how do I use Jacob's model to be able to do it versus every single one Waylon's done over the years, right? And just
Yeah.
how do you consume that and remember it? I actually put it in my phone, and I use the notes section in my phone to write down different ways to play. And what I will do as well is John used to have, his Pro Craps one, and he would list it like on the right-hand side of his face, how to play his style when he was doing his 10,000 to 100,000 thing or whatever, you know what I mean? His daily paycheck. And I would take a picture of that, and then I would pull it up on my phone and say, okay, let me try something else because this isn't working. Right. And I
Not
think
enough
that's
people
right.
do that.
Yeah. And
Not enough people use.
Yeah.
yeah.
Not enough people use their phones to write the notes. You have so much power right here that if you had to make a decision in the moment, you weren't sure, you step back from the table, you look at your notes, and then you move on. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
that,
we talked about this the other day, right? On the episode we're talking about like strategies and mathletes and stuff. And like we both made the point that not a lot of people play strategies the proper way they're supposed to. Right. And you watching a strategy once on YouTube, you do not know the strategy well enough to play it at a casino. Right. So like Ian said, and like Craig said, right, you got to use what you have available. If you're a pencil and paper guy, take a notebook. Right. They're not going to tell you can't do that. Take a notebook, write your shit down. If you're more tech savvy, use your phone, right? Exactly that. Take a picture of the strategy, write it down, what the moves are, that kind of stuff. And you can use that to your advantage at the casino. And like Ian said, right, he's got a bunch of them. Those are all tools in his tool belt that he's using when he's at the casino that like, oh, when should I do this? Oh, maybe I'm going to use this. But he's got it written down so he knows how to play it, right? If you rely off memory and you're not well enough practiced, you're not going to remember it. Right? Even something as simple as the skill 66, right? Everybody knows you're 66 inside, first hit pays 21, you drop a buck, you go to 88, next move is down to 44 inside, right? I say it because it's just in my head like that. If you watch that video once and you don't remember the regression piece, you're defeating the entire purpose of playing the strategy. That's the whole purpose of that strategy, is to press, regress. Whole purpose of it, right? So I like that point a lot of writing stuff down on the phone, using a notepad, whatever it is. Plus, even with like I always talk about tracking sessions, right? It's all on my phone to the point when as soon as I color up and I'm walking out of the casino, my head's immediately in my phone typing out, all right, this is what happened. And I even write the notes, like the little debrief, what worked, what didn't work, whatever it is. But the phone is so powerful for that kind of stuff, and it can really improve the way you gamble from a tracking perspective, whether it's monetary or you just want to know what rolls are happening, whatever it is, or just something as simple as knowing what strategy you're playing or having helpful notes for yourself so you actually can be prepared when you go in. Because as we always say, as soon as you walk in, you're disadvantaged.
And I think that, Chris, great point. I think that's where my next progression is too, right? Jen is the master of logging rolls. I want to be able to do that because she can tell you, hey, watch that guy, qualify that guy, right? And we all know what that means, right? Jen's is a 2-roll qualify, because she knows repeatedly what somebody's doing at the table, right? I would love to be able to do that. My problem is the ADHD in me. I'm all over the place. I'm more about the community of talking to people, especially when we have our private tables here in the Northwest. I want to talk with Holly. I want to talk with Craig. I want to talk with Norm. These people. The only time I ever see them is at a casino, right? And so to be able to leverage that, I think is huge, right? And I want to get better at using John's tool, his old tool on Casino Gaming TV, of going in and logging stuff. That's what I don't do. Like when I have a bad session, I come home, I never write it down what happened, right? And it's the same people all the time here in the Northwest that play. When you walk in, it's like, okay, that guy can play. That Holly's Golden Touch certified. Holly's got probably the nicest throw in the state of Washington. Craig is the master don't player. Where people are going to go. But if I don't write that down at 57, I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember it as well. So that's my commitment to myself. If I want to become a better gambler, I need to learn how to log stuff when I'm coming out. And we all have voice recorders on our phones. You can just hit a voice recorder and say, "Hey, I played with Craig and Dice DJ tonight. OBC was throwing a lot of 4s and 10s. Next time I play with him, get on the 4s and 10s," right? And then go put that in, especially if you play with crews. For those of you out there that play with crews, and I mean, I love it when Craig talks about playing with, Lou and you and Mac and all those guys, because you know what to expect. But that's because you're learning, because you play over and over and over with them, but you also have the ability to go watch them, a lot of them, right, on YouTube. And I think a lot of people don't expect. I mean, Chris, that's when you got your table from your throwing station to your table, it changed my vision of what you were doing, because you could see, you'd still huck and chuck and throw it down there, just random, but you can see the difference because you visualize better. I'm a very visual person. When I see a real table that's why I upgraded from a tiny throwing station to a little 4-foot tub, sold that for another 10-foot table, sold that one to my table that I have today that I got out of a casino in Reno to be able to progression. Because why? I ended up, didn't cost me anything from that table by the time I sold my other ones and progressed up. But to be able to visualize where those bets are and have an idea that Jen's going to throw 5s and 9s, right? Ian's going to throw, 4s and 10s. John's going to throw the chopper, and he's either going to, and it's so funny because as we've progressed through our time together, it's, people come in and out of our experiences, like Alfredo. I haven't seen Alfredo in forever. Chris, Hermanson, I think, you know what I mean?
Sideshow Gamble.
Yeah. Sideshow Gamble, and I know he's got a lot going on in his life. Yeah, no kidding, right? But you miss those, and I think that's the biggest part about craps is the community. I know if I called Jen right now, Jen would tell you, Ian's my Uber driver. Jen comes to the city of Seattle. She calls me. I go down to the airport. I pick her up, and I drive her out to her family's house out by John's, right? But that's the good part about it. I know if I called Craig and said, "Hey, man, I'm coming out to your area. Take me to a Baltimore game," there would be tickets. Chris, you came out, you would, and fiance DJ and it came out. We did the whole experience, right? And that's the cool part about it. Just because you're 2,500 miles away from me doesn't mean we're not friends. I could text Craig in the middle of the night and say, something's on my mind, and Craig's going to respond. That's a community it's so funny because as a dad of a 21-year-old daughter, all of her friends are nowhere near her. And that's the cool part about their demographic nowadays is they can do it over Discord. They can do it over text messaging. Yeah. They do it differently than what we might do. But in reality, it's the community. And that's the reason why I play craps. It's not because, I want to, I would love to learn Baccarat. I started playing, roulette years ago when I got tired of Pai Gow, and I just, I'm in it for the thrill of the hunt, right? That's what I love about craps. It's the passion of knowing, man, I made a dumb call not going dark side on that guy, when I knew he was only going to throw 2 or 3 roller, right? And so,
So you talked a great thing about the community, and that's part of the reason that you're in it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And from community, we've heard from John on his show. We've also heard John in interviews talk about Craps for the Cure. If anybody who's on the inside of Craps for the Cure knows that if John's 1A, you're 1B when it comes to marketing, when it comes to bringing Craps for the Cure out to the public, into the public's eye, how to get to it, how to keep with it. When we're at the event, you're the one giving the march on, let's go. Here are all the things coming in, all the donations. Talk a little bit about your involvement with Craps for the Cure and what brings you back every year.
Wow. Yeah. I'm a big supporter of charities. Obviously, my charity of choice usually is around autism because I have a kid with autism, right? But I watched John's first ever Craps for the Cure when he did it by himself for 24 hours. And I said, that guy needs a wingman. And the second year he came out and he said, hey, want to go to Vegas? I want to blow this up. I said, I'm in. Not only because it was a charity, but it was something I was passionate about as well. So I got to do the best of both worlds. And, we supported cancer that first year. And it's funny how people come in and out of this community. I can't even remember. Steve, I think was his name, wasn't it?
Yeah, Steve.
Can't remember
Pressed
what
by
his-
one.
Yeah, yeah. Pressed by one, yeah. And, and how people just come in and out of here, but it had nothing to do with that. It had to do about us getting together. The first year it was stay up all night. And I remember, Carrie Cadota from, Angels, trying to keep me awake. Craig, you remember that when we were sitting there. And we were locked in. We were locked
Yeah.
into Casino Quest in the mall. We couldn't get out. And, my goal is to be the behind the scenes guy for that event. I want to be the project manager. I want to, this year my job was to, and I want other people to get involved, like, Joe from Craps Master Journey wanted to do something that I normally do. And I was like, go, I want to do something else. But I'm passionate because I see the impact that it has on us as a community, right? It's the one time in the year where we can get anybody if they want to be part of it. From Garrison to Heavy to Ed to Coach Parker to you guys to Chiro. That will always be one of my favorite memories in Craps, was to meet Chiro and his wife. And that guy had as much energy, if not more, than me. He picked me up and hugged me the first time I ever met him. And I was like, this is a guy that, I wanted to go out and party with, right? And when I mean party, I mean not get drunk, but let's go play dice and let's have fun and let's be passionate about what we're doing. And then when he lost that bet, and John and I had already talked to Chris ahead of time, and Chris was going to give him his table, we knew that was going to happen. But to watch him do the ultimate, what are you doing? Right? And everybody's yelling at him, what are you doing? And then he threw that 7. And everybody's heart just sank, right? Because we were all, and he blew it off. He really did. I mean, I wouldn't have been that cool, especially
He
live.
turned white.
We
He turned
were
white.
live. We were live.
Yeah.
We were tape record. We were live.
Yeah.
And to watch him do that was just, one for the ages, right? And I think that's probably why we rallied around to help his kid, right, Layla? And I thought that, that's really cool of a community to say, Crystal, how is she going to be able to afford to send that kid to college, right? And to have Jen jump in and work the legality side of it, and John to be the megaphone for that. I want to be the one behind the scenes that's helping push it. And that's why I keep doing it every year, because I know there's a lot of back end work that people don't see, that, it just, John's so worried about the visual piece of it that somebody has to manage the back end piece of that. And when him and I first met the first year when we went down to Vegas, he goes, hey, I need you to do this. And I said, just point me in the right direction and I'll help you. Everything from getting Starbucks to donate 2 barrels of coffee for the 2 days we were in there, fine. If it's, going to Costco and buying all the food and drink, fine. Or if it's shouting out, hey, Craig just donated $100. It's funny because I get excited about that. You're like, I remember I won a bunch of money, and the first time we had Coach Parker come in, and he said, anybody that donates $500, I'd won $500 the night before, and I threw it right down on the table just because it was like, I'm helping somebody else other than me, and I get something that I really want in 4 hours with Coach Parker, which for me was worth more than $500, because and to this day, like, we just went down there in September, and I went over to his house when I got into town, and he's like, Ian, I don't want any money from you. I was like, no, Coach, come on. You're giving to the community. I want to give back. Take your wife out to dinner, right? Here's some money. Take your wife out to dinner. But to open his home up, that's amazing. I remember there was a time when I first started, I reached out to Ed and I said, Ed, who should I go see? Do I go to Heavy? Do I go to Golden Touch? Do I go to Howard? Do I go to Coach Parker? Who do I go to? This is before Ed started his old routine, right? This was years ago. And he said, no, I think you should go to, we did a video together. He watched my video and stuff. And he said, I think you should go to Coach Parker, Ian. And which I think is smart because coach's philosophy, I like it's not all about how do you throw the dice. It's about how do you read the dice and how do you bet, which I struggle with, right? It's so funny because he'll ask you questions like, what do you see? Why are you doing that? Instead of just saying, hey, don't do that, right? Like, craps are the cure to me. I will always do it. As long as John does it, I will be there just because I know someone's going to benefit because what this community does in a 2-day period, right? And I get to
Yeah,
see
it's incredible.
and I get to see all you guys in person, right? I remember,
Yeah.
the first time I ever met Mac. I mean, Craig, you were there. Mac's on a heater, and we're at Harris, and some jerk comes in and drops $2,000 down right in the middle of his roll. And Jeff's like, hey, are you going to bet? And the guy didn't bet, and Jeff picked up the dice and threw it at him.
We ducked.
We ducked.
Yeah.
Because we were there. Chris, I think you were there too, right? And I think Holy Roller was
Yeah.
there.
Chris was there.
And it
Yeah,
was
I was there.
great. I was like, and I didn't know at that time that, hey, you shouldn't put money down unless you're going to make a bet. You probably should wait till the puck says off, just out of common courtesy. But I learned right then and there. This is serious, right?
Yeah.
Ian being the playful guy, I want to play all the time. I want to be playful. You know what I mean? There's times when you're at a table, you need to be serious too, or go to a different table.
So I want to say
Yeah.
real quick, because I just want to compliment you, Ian, that it's your energy that makes me want to that makes me show up to Craft for the Cure and makes me just say, how can I help? Doesn't matter what the job is, doesn't matter where I'm put. Now, this past year, it was about trying to fill the shoes of Mr. DGen over here, because he's Mr. Producer.
Good luck.
The first couple of years, but which is it's not easy, Chris. I'm going to give it to you. It's not easy, but it's your spirit, Ian, that makes me just come in, and you and I hit it off the bat so quickly. It's like we've been friends for over decades, and we've only been friends for less than 3 years, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
But just you make me want to come in there and say, I'm not there to like, hey, it's Craft for the Cure. We're going to be live. We're going to be over. Let's, promote our channels. No, it's about, I come there and I'm like, how can I help? And you're a driver of that. And so I just love that. Chris, you may want to speak. I don't know if you wanted to speak anything more about Craft for the Cure. Ian had mentioned about, Bo Parker and others. And maybe we can skip right to that question. If you want.
Yeah. Yeah, we can right after. But yeah, I gotta compliment Ian too, because like Ian's energy, obviously, like if you're watching this podcast online, like you can see Ian's energy coming through the screen. And if you can't, go get some glasses or something because you're blind as fuck. But that's beside the point. But no, Ian's energy is like so contagious too when you are in person. Like that first year at Crash for the Cure was, we were up for 24 hours. And for folks at home, people are like, oh, yeah, it's 24 hours. It's not that bad. All right, let me tell you something. All right. We started that stream in the afternoon. We were all up in the morning too. But like when you're doing the fundraising, you're doing all that kind of stuff, like it's a lot more work than just being awake for 24 hours. Right. So like that energy was contagious. And you brought up the story of Chiro, and I wanted to touch on that quickly because that was the only chance that I actually had to meet him in person. Unfortunately, before he passed away, Deontay, DJ, and I were planning a trip out to Missouri to actually go see him and his family. That was actually one of my last texts to him was regarding that trip. But seeing him in person, like he also had that energy that like you just wanted to smile and giggle when you were around him. And I think a lot of people, especially those that do help with Crash for the Cure and those that are involved, it's that infectious energy that makes you want to get up there and go and do whatever you can. And it's just a great part of the community as a whole, right? Like I know even when we go on our Atlantic City meetups and we do other things, right? Like we want to go, right? I come out to Seattle to see Ian and John, 5-star service from Ian the entire time, right? Seahawks game, Kraken game, going here, going there, doing this, doing that. Like you got to go to this place. You got to go check this place out. Hey, my brother has a hotel. Come, go stay there. Like literally doesn't have to do any of that, but will give you the shirt off his back if I asked him for it, because that's just the kind of guy Ian is. That's the kind of guy that a lot of the people and girls, because Jen is very similar, right? I can't leave Jen out because Jen is a special person as well. and in the best way possible. All right. So people don't flip that and be like, oh, DGen said Jen's special, in the most positive way possible. But it's just the way this community is. And it's truly fantastic. So plug for Crash for the Cure again. If you haven't donated already, I'll put the links down below. They're still active. You can still go there. And if you don't want to participate this year, that's fine. Consider participating next year. And I'm committing to it now, provided no personal shit happens. I will be there next year because I miss it so much. Like, watching you guys at home isn't the same. Like, I get that. I still get that vibe and everything, and it's all great and stuff. But like, watching at home, I feel like I have severe FOMO. I could miss out on 100 roll at the casino and not have the FOMO that I have watching Crash for the Cure from my couch or wherever I was at the time. So yeah, it sucked. But anyway,
Yeah. So Chris, real quick. So I go back and I watch afterwards when John splices things up and uploads it, right? And it doesn't do it justice of
No.
watching it versus being there. And if you're
Yep.
ever there, everybody that's there, it is just, I mean, it's an amazing time. The problem is I'm so loud that everybody yells at me, Ian, be quiet. Ian, leave the room. Go over there, you know? And,
How
and I
many
don't
times did
try
I
to-
say that to you the first year?
Yeah.
Ian, the mic's picking you up. Shut
I
up.
know. It's like, geez. So, but it's one of my favorite trips of the year. I mean, one, I get to be around friends. Two, I get to do something to support a charity, of choice, I mean, the first time Ed talked about us getting a kid for his a dog for his kid was just heart-wrenching, to watch, your heater roll from the end at was it year 3 of the Crafts for the Cure was unbelievable, right? And it's those times where I think people in the community, if they understood the value of coming out, and it's not to play in the private table, you guys. If you're coming out to play because you think everybody's a great shooter and you want to come out and just all you want to do is be on the table, then don't come. That's not what it's about. Go to your local meetups and play with your crew there. This is about spending time together, right? As two guys that are on the East Coast and John and I are on the West Coast, and Jen's down in San Francisco. But we all, for those of you that are out there in YouTube land, is in podcast land, is that we talk about this year round because we get so excited about, like Chris said, when we found out Chris couldn't come this year, it was like, oh man, Debbie Downer, right? It's kind of like, I look at it like Chris, Craig, you'll appreciate this, like Silverado, we come from everywhere, but we created a crew that when we get together, we know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool part about it, right? I would love to be able to say one year, hey, let's do it from Atlantic City instead of Vegas, right? You get tired of doing it from Vegas, right? One year, we got to go out there one year, right? And that's one of the things that I'm going to bring up this year when we talk about where to go, But the problem is we don't get access like we do at Casino Quest. Those guys open the door, Nick and Dave and Alex and, all those guys give us a facility to do what we can do
100%.
that I don't could ever get anywhere else. That's the only reason why. Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true. But however, there may be some opportunity. Okay.
Look.
Just gonna put that in your head and in YouTube world's head. Because DGen has been making some contacts with some people. All right.
Great.
Anyway, beside the point. We don't need to worry about that. We're gonna worry about another contact that is very, very good at what he does, and then also at teaching the game of craps, teaching the throw. We're talking about Bo Parker, right? Because I know you've taken a lot of classes with him. So if you want to hear what Ian has to say about Bo Parker and what we have to say about Bo Parker, you're going to have to tune in for episode 2 because this is going to be a 2-parter. Because as you can tell, as I preluded to this whole thing, the three of us can talk. And there may be 3 parts. I don't know, but I know there's definitely going to be 3 parts. There might be 3 parts. So everybody at home, we appreciate you guys watching. Ian, we appreciate you coming on. For the folks at home, though, again, part 2 will be up very, very shortly. We're going to talk about Coach Parker. We're going to talk about some philosophical stuff. We're going to talk about working with other coaches, talk about some sports as well, because we haven't touched on sports yet. We're going to touch on that as well. And some pet peeves, maybe. What the fuck is coming up in part 2 as well. Of course, our top 5 list and our tip of the episode. So folks at home, stay tuned for part 2. If you don't know where to find us, links down below to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, FullofChipsPodcast@gmail.com. Ian, one final word for part 2.
Let's do it, man. I'm having a blast here, you guys. Thanks for the invite. Let's go. Let's do it right, man. Now you got me all excited. I'm about ready to go down and get it. I'm gonna have to go refill.
There we go. All right, folks at home, we love you. Thank you for tuning in to the Full Chips Podcast, and stay tuned for part 2.
Thanks, everybody.